Okay, so we're really progressing nicely now with our Minisite design. We only have a couple of stages left to go, and one of those is, if I just bring up the finished design, that's to transfer this little fella here onto the design, the dog. Now, to be able to do this, we need to understand how to use an element called paths, or a tool called paths in Photoshop. Now they're very, very powerful. What they enable us to do is to lift off a certain section of an existing image and just to use that one section over another image. So we're effectively removing it from its background so that we can then composite it onto a different image. And that really is, I think, one of the most useful things, certainly on this set of videos and possibly even in Photoshop in general, just that having that option of being able to remove elements from an image to use in a different composition. Okay, so I'll just minimize this, and I'll minimize this one for now, because what we're going to do in this video is we're just going to go through paths in a very, very basic way. And to do that, what I want you to do is just to go to File and Open, and from the Resources folder in the Project Minisite zip download that you should have, I want you to load up the Paths Shape image. Open. Okay, so we have that now, and what it is obviously a very, very simple shape, but at the moment it's actually stuck on a white background. If we wanted to just use this shape over the top of another image, say if we wanted to add it onto our header here or something, what we would need to do is separate that from the white background as it is at the moment. And an ideal way of doing that is using paths. And to do that, the first thing we need to do is select the pen tool here. So if we just click on there, as you can see, that's brought up a whole new set of options along the top here, and we need to make sure some of these are set correctly. And the first one we need to make sure is that the middle one here is clicked so that paths is selected, and the pen tool, make sure that's selected. Auto add delete, make sure that's on there, and just make sure the final one here is selected, exclude overlapping path areas. Sorry. Okay, so now we've got that, we have this icon up here, and that's the pen tool. And to use this, what we're going to do is basically you're drawing around the outline of the shape that you want to isolate from the background. So in this example, what we need to do is just to make 4 clicks, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the corners, and then close the path up around this shape. So to do that, what we'll do is we'll zoom in slightly, remembering that's Control and plus on the keyboard. So I'll zoom into about 300% and just widen this out. And what I'll do is, using the space bar to move the image around, I'll just take myself up to the top here. Letting go of space bar brings back the pen tool, and as accurately as I can, I'm just going to click in the corner of this image here, one, and you can see a little dot appears. That's the first part of our path. So using space bar, I'm just going to grab and move down to here, and then again, as accurately as I can, just click in the corner. And what you can see is, if I just zoom back out again, that has created a line going down the edge of this shape, and that's the first part of our path. I'll zoom back in again, move us down to the very bottom here, and if I just click on there, we can see that's created another line that goes along the edge of the shape and up to here, and another line has appeared. And finally, if I go back to our very, very first point here, once I hover the cursor over, you see a little circle appears next to the pen tool, and that just means it's going to, if I click on there, it will automatically close that path up and make it into a solid path, so it's not open-ended anywhere. Okay, that's good. So now we have our path. We've effectively drawn around the outline of that shape. So we have a path. What we need to do, in the layers palette up here, it should have a tab saying paths. So if we click on there, what you can see is the thumbnail of the actual path that we've just created. Now if you don't have this paths tab on here, you're going to have to go to Window and Paths and just make sure that's clicked, and that will bring up this path palette here. Okay, now we have the path. There are a few things we can do with it, and we do those down here at the bottom. The first one here is, as it says, you can fill the path with the foreground colour, and that basically does exactly what it says. Whatever colour you have selected at the moment, what I'll do is I'll go to layers and I'll just create a new layer quickly. You don't have to do this, I'm just going to demonstrate what you can do, and I'll select a completely different colour to the blue we have there, a green, and going back to my Paths tab, and if I just click on here where it said fill path with foreground colour, what you can see is that's exactly what it's done. Within that path, it's filled it with the foreground colour. So I'll just hide that for now, because that's not what we're actually wanting to do. I'm just demonstrating what can be done with paths. What we actually want to do is remove that shape from the white background. Now to do that, we need to come to the third icon across here, which is load path as selection. So what that's doing is loading the selection which we've done in the past, but using the layer shape. Now we're actually using the path shape that we've just created to load the selection. So if I just click on there, you can see as before now we have our little dashed line appear around the shape. Now this means we can copy and paste this area, making sure that we have the correct layer selected, which is the background one. If I go to edit and copy, now that's made a copy onto the clipboard of the computer. And if I go to edit and paste, what that has done, if you look up here now, it's just created a new layer, but more importantly it's actually just got the shape on. We can see that the behind the shape on the thumbnail is transparent, and we'll see that more clearly if I just hide the original background layer. I'm just using the move tool. You can now see that we have that shape isolated on its own. So I could, if I wanted to, I could say, if I bring up our design, what I can do is grab that layer, drag it across and let go there, and now we have that basic shape ready to use over the top of another image, which is exactly what we're going to do with the dog later on. But obviously we'll have the dog there instead of just a simple shape like that. So I'll just delete that one from there for now. And if you move on to the next video, what we're going to do is we'll just draw around a slightly more complicated shape, just to show you how paths can also be used to draw around curved objects rather than just straight lines.